heathens, I am Beauty Heathen, and welcome to my channel. My channel is dedicated to exploring the subject of paganism through the medium of cosmetics. If that sounds like something you might be interested in delving into, if you're maybe just wanting to see what looks I come up with based on the subject material, or if you're interested in learning about and educating yourself on paganism, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and set the bell to all to be notified of when I upload new videos. Today's video is not a normal content video, it is another rant video. Before I get into this look and into the subject matter, I want to specify that this will be a fiery look, but it is not a fiery look because of the subject I'm speaking about. It is a fiery look because I'm pissed, to put it quite bluntly. So, with that said, I am in no way, make, shape, or form trying to, cash in on the atrocities currently going on. And this is not just about Australia, but it is about the wildfires that are happening basically worldwide. Today's foundation, of course, is Manic Panic in Virgin White. I do have more pale flesh tone foundations, but because I want the colors to pop a bit, that's why I'm generally using the white foundation. With that said, on with the show. These brushes are from, again, if I haven't mentioned it in a while, I believe these are the Funko Pop collaboration that they did. So, the Australian bush is on fire. So far to date, we've lost over 500,000 animals. These are species, flora and fauna, that are completely and totally indigenous and native to Australia, and many of which cannot be found anywhere else in the world. And like many people, you may be questioning, well, how did this happen? What is going on? Why is this so bad? And many people are talking about climate change, and for the record, I absolutely concur that climate change is a contributing factor. But there's another causality that many people may not be aware of, and it's a subject that I touched briefly in my animism video towards the end when I spoke about Aborigines and Aboriginal Dreamtime and culture, and that is the absolute proclivity of especially people who have heritage from Europe or European countries or cultures, and at the risk of irritating anybody, by and large white people, and I'm saying this as a white person, so don't come at me, that historically we have treated indigenous people like shit. And there's just no other way to put that. Sorry, every once in a while my camera wants to wash out the face and I have to readjust it, but so if it does that, Forgive me, it's probably because I put my arm too close to it. And I'm not just talking about indigenous people in America. I mean, it's happened pretty much worldwide. Anywhere that indigenous people have lived or resided, and there is a predominant society or group of people who are wanting access to the land, wanting the resources on that land, they are of the mentality of, well, I'm just going to go in and take it and screw the primitive brown people who are in the area. And this is unfortunately something that we have seen time and time and time and time and again. And the reason why this particular subject is of importance to what is currently going on, not just in Australia, but you look at California with the wildfires, you look at South America, albeit by and large the wildfire that happened recently and may actually still be going on. I have to take a look. In the Amazon and in the Amazon rainforest was by and large due to it being set because of greed. And again, at the expense of the local indigenous people who reside in the Amazon rainforest and strive to caretake it as well as they can per their culture. We have a history of not just treating these people like shit, but deeming them to be stupid, or, as I said before, primitive, because they have a culture and a mentality and a heritage that is more in line with living with the earth rather than trying to be dominant over it. And this is something that we have seen so many times. It has happened in Canada. I mean, there's not really... I don't think there's even one continent where that's not something that has happened. But with regards to Australia, based off of everything that I have seen and everything we have heard in the news and everything, a lot of this could have been prevented. And I think that's what makes me even angrier, not just the loss of species that can't be found anywhere else, not just the loss of human life and their homes, but the mere reality that here you have an indigenous people who have lived on that continent for around 40,000 years. This is an indigenous people who did and performed seasonal, controlled, sectioned burnings of dead brush because they knew their environment. They knew that wildfires happen, that the dry season happens every so often. I'm not entirely familiar with Australia's climate, so I can't speak as to whether it's every summer, every winter, or such, but they know their climate, they know their environment. And what happened when the Europeans invaded? They did to them exactly what has been done to indigenous people on other continents throughout the world. They oppressed them. They became racist towards them. They ignored them and ignored what they had to say. And that was by far the biggest mistake that they could have made. And I'm not just talking about people in Europe, I'm talking about everywhere. Sorry, I'm reaching down to get brushes. 'Cause here when you look at in the Americas per se, you had the indigenous people who knew the environment, knew what you could and couldn't eat. Without them, the Europeans who had come here would have starved and would not have been able to live and thrive. We did the same thing to them. And there's really been no reason for it other than greed, egotistical mentality, and prejudice. That's it. I'm sorry, no one, regardless of race, spirituality, heritage, religion, culture, or even financial status, is better than any other person on the face of the planet. And I'm not just saying this about indigenous people, I'm also referring that particular comment for also people who are homeless, because I see that as a constant issue in the media as well, that they are not taken care of and they are not paid attention to, they are ignored, and if they dare to exist in certain areas, the town or municipality does everything that they can to get rid of them, which in my humble opinion is disgusting. I use the JCat Freedom Creator lip palette for the lips. Now, in the scope of being completely transparent, I decided to re-record this video because even though I had posted online that it was done and edited, which it was when I was going through it, I didn't really care for the look that I had done or the quality of how things had come out, so I'm re-recording this. But with this being done, I know, and you guys haven't seen me use this palette yet, that this palette, the So Jaded palette from Kathleen Lights and ColourPop, is absolutely amazing. The color payoff is incredible. I was able to use brushes with this palette in the last video that I recorded and have since deleted. I mean, it came out really amazingly. So I'm going to go ahead and use that alone for today's look. So I know people viewing this may be saying, well, this isn't really the time to harp on this. This isn't really the, there's more important things going on. There's no reason to bring this up now, but there actually is. And I want to make it abundantly clear that I absolutely feel that everyone should be focusing on doing their best to help with the situation going on. But the reason why I'm bringing this up now is to do my best to bring light to this issue to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Aboriginal tribes tried telling people. They tried guiding people how to be better caretakers of the land. They tried making sure that people paid attention and maintained the seasonal burnings and making sure that dried brush did not get out of hand. I mean, we even had foresters here in the United States when these wildfires in California started getting out of control again, who said that historically they had been doing these brush cleanings and burning off. I smudged that a bit, but it's okay. We'll make it part of the look, right? In order to prevent this kind of thing happening. And had that been maintained, and had people listened and continued that maintenance, things would not be as bad as they are. I'm just trying to make things somewhat even. I mean, it just breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart, not just for the people affected, but for all of the animals as well, and for so much of it that could have absolutely been avoided. Or at least far more than it was. I'm not saying that there wouldn't have been any fires going on, because again, this is part of their climate and part of the arid dryness of their environment means that this will happen. I'm just trying to use the color garnet to try to deepen the crease, and I'm packing it in there instead of using the sweeping motions, because I'm noticing that by attempting to do so, it was removing some of the underlying color, which that color is carnelian. And here's one thing that many people do not realize. Areas that have drought, areas that need water, you can bring water back to those areas without trucking it in, without severe irrigation methods and all of that kind of stuff. at least eventually. And the main way you do that is you plant trees. By planting trees, you cause the ecosystem in those areas to naturally correct themselves. And they help bring balance back to those areas. So if, and again, I don't know because I don't know the areas involved, if there have been things like logging or cutting trees down, things that would deplete the vegetation in those areas, it needs to be brought back. Because without plant life and without trees, you're not going to have water. And I know not a lot of people realize this. But it has been something that has been proven time and again, especially when I forgot the name of the movie. There was a boy in Africa whose area was completely decimated of water. I mean, animals were dying. People were having to leave because they couldn't grow crops. And he had this brainstorm to plant trees, and he developed a very somewhat easy irrigation method to make sure that the trees were watered and everything, especially while they were growing. And eventually his methods and all the work he did helped restore a normal climate with rain and water back to his area. And his methods were replicated over and over and over again. I know the movie is on Netflix, I just can't remember the name of it at the moment. And it just goes to show that if we want to fix things, we gotta make sure that we do our best to ensure they can be fixed. And I'm not saying, people don't make a difference. They do. The things that we do, every little bit helps. By and large, the contributors to the climate issues that we're having are big corporations. Until we force them to stop what they've been doing, even the little changes that we work on and we do, which help a little, they're not going to make as much difference as if we force corporations to do their part as well. And far too many of them are not doing that. And yeek. I just messed up. Hey, I kind of fixed it. one thing that I contemplated doing when I was younger was going to work for the Department of Environmental Protection or the EPA. And in my freshman year, I remember I bought this environmental law book, which wasn't meant for freshmen. It was a book for seniors. The color on the cheeks that I put was called You're a Gem, and I realized this is getting to be a very strong look, and I'm breaking many rules, but I'm using a mannequin head, and I can do what I want. And I remember, as a freshman, sitting down and reading a lot of the book, because I figured, hey, if this is going to be a subject that I'm interested in pursuing, if this is a material that I want to be somewhat versed in before I get to be a senior, it won't do me much harm to start to get a little bit of information. And as I sat and as I read that book and as I studied up on what the laws and what the penalties were for corporations who broke these laws, I swiftly realized that going to work for this agency wouldn't stop it, and that no amount of passion and desire to make things change would help by working for that organization. I'm putting a little bit of pearl on the brow bone, and I'll be using it for a little bit of a highlight too, because the penalties a lot of these companies face are a drop in the bucket for the money that they make by breaking the laws. Even more so, and here's a real kicker. If you follow me on Twitter, especially my personal account, you may remember about a week ago or so, I had posted recommending a Netflix documentary to people. If I recall correctly, it was called The Devil We Know. And that documentary, that doesn't seem to be coming out the way I wanted, was about the DuPont Corporation. Okay, there's the flash. Couldn't see it from that angle. That's a combination of pearl and sunstone. And the DuPont Corporation and 3M was listed in that movie as well, used this product called C8 in their development of Teflon, and I forgot what 3M used the component for. But in doing this, they have now poisoned the entire world. And it is a ingredient that they knew was poisonous, that they knew would cause birth defects, would cause a lot of issues, especially for women who were pregnant. And in the desire to get richer, and in the desire to make sure that their bottom line wasn't affected, they pursued with using this ingredient. And it's not just in Teflon making pans, don't get it twisted. Teflon is now an ingredient that is in our used in pipes. I should let the foundation dry a little bit. I'm using smoky quartz over the entire face. So it's in our pipes. It's in not just pans and pots that had Teflon coating. There are many things that have Teflon coating today. Some we know about, some we don't. And those poisons have seeped into our water for generations. And because of that, no matter where you go in the world, no matter what you do, the C8 is in the water. And in recent years they did swap it out, and the chemical they now use is called Gen X, and that chemical is just as bad, if not worse, as C8. To avoid a lot of the legal implications and all that kind of stuff, they split off their company and made the chemical portion of their company into its own thing. Because they were brought to court over this, they were sued, and people won millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. So, if you haven't seen that documentary, I recommend it. And I know I went off on kind of a side diatribe, but it was a little bit pertinent to part of the reasons why climate change can be such a big issue, because these things don't just affect us, they affect all the things around us as well. And it's time that we stop being complicit in our own death. It's time we stop turning a blind eye to things. It's time we stop ignoring the words and the advice of the people who came before us, especially to the climates in which we presently reside. We need to listen to the Aborigines. We need to listen to the Native Americans. We need to listen to the indigenous people. And we need to become better caregivers of this planet. We need to work and make sure that we do these seasonal burnings of dry and dead brush. We need to make sure that we maintain as much as we can a healthy ecosystem, or we're not going to have one left. I'm just putting a little bit of pearl on the lips over the red and gold colors that I use from the J-Cat. Trying to lighten it up just a little bit. And I know there's going to be people who are upset with me for bringing this up right now, especially while Australia and many other areas are in the midst of these crises, but the only way things change is if we decide to change them. The only way these things stop is if we start paying attention and listening to the people who have been trying to tell us for hundreds of years that we need to stop. The only way things change is if we make them. It's up to us. We either learn to change or us and everyone around us and all the future generations to come are completely screwed. And for those who may come in my comments and say, oh, this is such BS, it's all cyclical, I want to ask you an honest question. What harm is there in making the world a cleaner place to live? Why is that such a bad thing, even if it is a cyclical thing? What is so bad about having a cleaner planet? And with that, this is today's look. I'm sorry it's a little bit stronger than necessarily I may have intended, but I felt it went along with the subject I was discussing. And hopefully my words fall on ears of people who can help make a difference. With all of that said, I wish you well. I wish you blessings. And until next time, brightest blessings and blessed be.